Draw 2 of the U18 Orion Slam, hosted at Dundas Valley. Today we have two teams playing for us on sheet 2. Team Acres is throwing blue stones, and Team Ramsay is throwing yellow. Looks like we had the first shot from Team Maker, but right on the button. And Team Ramsay's trying to follow them down. Just a little heavy for the freeze, but still sticks around in the back 12 foot. Team Acres is looking to put another blue stone, top 12 foot into the house. It's really interesting to see the difference between the male U18 approach and the female U18 approach. On a couple of the sheets, I see that there's a little bit more of an open setup, maybe playing the first end clean like the sheet we have in front of us, but there still are a couple guards in play, so it'll be interesting to see if the women follow a similar pattern to the men, if they are just amping up to get aggressive, or if they stay a little bit more defensive throughout the course of their match. So it looks like Kelvin Johnston holds the broom for Team Ramsay. And it looks like they're calling it a little bit heavy right now. Line's close, just needs to come in a little. Overall, a great shot right on the button. Can keep that in the memory banks for later when it might come in handy. Looks like the younger of the two Acres sisters attempting this hit and roll from the button right under the guard. Oh, it seems to be over curling a lot, but maybe we'll see an audible come in. Just a little bit of an over curl on the audible. So now we kind of have it back to how the end seemed to shape up. It's a little bit open. Yellow Team Ramsay has a chance to hit that back 4-foot rock, roll over a little, and potentially isn't a bad strategy, but it's interesting. If you, referring back to draw 1, all of the guys were just going after each other with lots of rocks in play, many big scores, and it'll be interesting to see if this holds true for the women, or if they're just trying to get in the swing of things.
Yeah, it looks like it's only our game that doesn't have a guard in play right now. All the other 3 sheets have some guards in play. So we'll see how that develops. Now, like we said in the first draw, this is a lot of the team's first games. There was an event here 2 weeks ago that only played 1 women's draw, and then we had a compressor malfunction. And that's why that event has been postponed to the end of November. And this is a lot of these women's teams' first games in competitive this season. So it's good to see already communication. As you saw, Abby, right when she let it go, she said that I was heavy, and that's great communication from the first game of the season.
No, it really is. And I think communication is something that's going to be super important here, especially for the team with 3 players. So this is not the first team, actually, interestingly enough, that has 3 players. But due to the COVID restrictions and how the flow of curling has changed to accommodate for COVID, I think early on there isn't going to be much distinction between the 3-player teams compared to the 4-player teams. I think when it's going to be felt the most is when you get later on in the tournament and the teams start to get a little bit tired, a little bit worn out because they've played multiple games. So I think it'll be interesting to see what the difference is between the teams with 3 as well as the teams with 4 later on.
And you can see Savannah is trying to split the rings here, and it's running. It looks like a little hot, but as soon as it catches the curl, Brooks waving the rock over, try to slow it down. And with the COVID rules, the other skip can't sweep behind the tee line, so it looks like this rock is going to stop in a perfect spot, even with the other yellow.
Maybe by moving those air currents around, Team Ramsay was able to perfectly line up those 2 back tee line rocks.
And I like the no hesitation Emma has of playing the hit on the shot stone, maybe roll towards the other yellow a little bit. That's all you can do and then you're just trying to hope for a half shot so you can get a blank out of this end.
Yeah, and you see it coming in here now. It looks pretty good.
And like our first draw with the other 3-player team, the sweeper is getting her sweeps in already in the first end.
Yeah, I know. I think that's actually an interesting component to the 3-person approach, especially during the rules we have. It's kind of figuring out how to best use that one sweeper to the maximum effectiveness. So it'll be interesting to see how those 3-player teams manage that.
And it looks like right out of the hand. Abby was sweeping, and it looks like this rock stayed straighter than Brooke thought it would, and it just misses the blue one. So it'll be interesting to see where Emma decides to go. Looks like she's throwing one, was it a tight guard or a top 12?
Yeah,
it's definitely going to the center.
Yeah, so maybe our wide open game isn't as wide open as we think it is. No, I think this is an interesting call. It kind of sets the tone for this end. Kind of that Emma really wants to make Team Ramsay perform in early end. And some strategies like that work really well. Sometimes forcing your team to those pressure shots early on when they're not as comfortable with the ice results in unforced errors.
Absolutely.
So I think the main thing here is that it's a tight guard because the rock you're guarding, I think they're signaling for in the house.
Looks like top 12 then is running a little faster. Like we said, the games start faster, and throughout the game it's going to pick up more curl and slow down. And it ends right up to their other blue. So not the result they wanted, but it is 2 stones that Brooke is looking at to make a nose double.
The ladies are just lining up the angles to make sure that there's no chance of jamming. Getting that little bit of understanding of those angles and that extra bit of communication never hurts early on. It's always good to make sure that the team is on the same page and everything's going as according to plan.
a great double there by Keaton. And sorry, we've been calling the names wrong, solely because on our player list it's in a different lineup than what they're playing in. So now we got it right. We got the coaches to confirm the names. So all the parents watching at work don't have to get upset at us.
Yeah, we'd like to make sure to support the parents that are supporting their kids and their athletes to aspire to be the best that they can be at the sport we all love the most.
So we'll call them by their right name from now on. Looks like they are trying to hit and stick.
Emma got enough of it to remove that rock from the house, but
Yeah.
Ramsay seems to still be sitting one back 12 in the corner.
Yeah. So Keaton is going to probably try and split the rings, or, yep, top four is fine, and put as much pressure on Emma as possible to make that hit and stick for one.
Interestingly enough, this is actually the last stone.
Yeah.
So
Never mind, it's a draw for two.
if you haven't figured it out yet, we are on our game in this broadcasting booth.
We are dialed in today.
110% dialed in. So it looks like Ramsay is throwing that draw to the button. It looks similar to the path that she took
for her draw for hammer.
Yeah, exactly. So I have a feeling the team strategically chose this path because they know it. And I think they're looking for that extra point with hammer, which never hurts.
And I think it's really important that even though you just need paint, you want to absolutely try and pin it just for the skip's confidence and the rest of the team's confidence. And we see that this side is curling a lot like it did last game. So she makes her draw for two. And Team Ramsay will go up 2-0 going into the second end. So a nice clean end, which we are not used to on the broadcast so far. Leads to a 2 for Ramsay. Just to update the one other sheet I can update, on sheet 5, Madden took one with hammer, so they're leading 1-0 over Beauchamp. So some communication from Keaton. Looks like she wants a top four, which is a great call after you take two.
Yeah, I think on our sheet we might see, well, so far we've seen an end of open curling, and it's interesting to see how different teams have different strategies coming into these events. And it's also going to be interesting to see how these team strategies evolve over the course of the event. While they become more comfortable with the ice, more comfortable with the COVID rules that are set in place, and it'll just be really interesting to see how this end shapes up. It looks like, and we see the broom go down by Emma to ask for a hit. Yes, my bad.
We're going to figure out these names by the 8th end, and the parents at home will be happy by then. And that's a great hit and stick. And what looks like another clean end so far.
I know, they always seem to start out this way. Oh, and look at that. And now she heard you.
She heard me.
And she said,
the
Sam,
earpiece was in the ear, and she said, you know what, I'm not going to listen to you.
Do you blame her?
I don't.
Yeah,
no.
I don't either.
That's why I'm not a coach.
So we're looking for, I believe, a zone 2 centerline guard here. I believe that's Abby, who's trying to finish the rock to center, and it looks like she successfully did so. That centerline guard right there.
The aggressiveness, up 2, I like it. I enjoy it a lot. It looks like Emma is calling for a draw around the center, which I like. It's early. Just because you're down 2 doesn't mean... Just because you're down 2 does not mean you need to be too aggressive and throw a corner guard. Looks like this rock is running a little hot than they expected, but it is catching the curl on that curl side, so it should slow down. Nothing wrong with back forefoot.
No, and I think an interesting pattern, I know this is only the second game that we've seen on this sheet, but the ladies have already noticed how much curl that sheet one side really has. And I think figuring out how to best adjust to the amount of curl as well as what weight needs to be thrown to get the result that you're looking for is going to be really vital to the outcome of this match.
Yes.
I think if the first team to understand that side of the ice will definitely have the advantage.
It's interesting that both games so far have played on that side more, on the left side of the ice more than the right side.
No, that's a really good point, Sam. And I think a part of it is
they're mostly righties and they're like interns more.
Yeah, the righties love a good intern,
Yeah.
and I subscribe to that way of thinking. But at the same time, I think the curl side is much more forgiving.
Yes.
And I think that you can do a lot with the curl side in contrast to the straight side.
Absolutely.
So I think that's why you see more play coming from that side. But like that was an excellent shot by Abby. I'll get it eventually.
And she left that in a really good spot, just because it's open. It's a top forefoot. It might not be shot rock, but it's in that control zone that we've been talking about that last game and now this game. And look at this bluestone warp into the butt.
I know, it's
great shot.
It's absolutely wild to see how much of a right turn those rocks have been taking when it hits the break point.
And it's really good for these players to see that this early in the season and see how much it's curling. And it's a really good learning because arena ice, it warps like that too. And I think every competitive curler's goal is to play on arena ice and play on that big stage. And that's what it's like, right? It curls a ton at the end, and you get to learn here at a curling club how much it warps. And Savannah, saying it correctly, is playing that looks like wants to make this hack weight hit. And a big sweep here to try to get it by the center guard. But when you have a 2-0 lead, peeling that guard is definitely not the end of the world here.
So it looks like Emma's lining up a hit on that Team Ramsay stone, fighting top forefoot. With hammer. So that's reassuring. You always, when you have hammer, you're always looking for that multiple score, and right now it looks like Akers is set up to do so. So it'll be interesting to see how Team Ramsay navigates that and tries to maybe eliminate some rocks or maybe go to more aggression. We'll have to wait and see. Score update on sheet 4. It looks like Madaw stole 1 point against Team Smith. With the double attempt, the angles just seem to not work as much. Maybe a little bit more speed, but the line was good, and it rolled to an interesting part of the sheet. Last draw, we saw a couple attempts of hits thrown both inside out and outside in, out wide. And the way the ice is out there, it's kind of a guess at this stage of the game because they don't really know what to expect. Shout out to the parent who sent a message. We love the positive feedback, and we do our best at the Junior Slam series to make youth curling as fun, enjoyable, and accessible as possible. So we appreciate the comment.
They do make that hit, but they rolled out. As we saw, it is still quite straight out there. We are multitasking over here, doing the announcing, eating, and running the event because that's how amazing. We're basically superhumans, me and Ryan. But
Superhumans with no ego.
yeah, no ego whatsoever.
But anyways, enough about us. We're here for the curling. So it looks like Keaton is setting up for, I believe it's
a freeze, I think.
Was it a freeze or a
guard? She tapped on the stone in the back.
I find this kind of play very interesting because they right now are up 2, but the opponent, Team Acres, is sitting 2. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to turn that offense, they're trying to be offensive with getting out of the jam that they're in right now.
Now it looks like that freeze attempt just over curled, but got close to being buried, but I think Team Acres can make this, looks like board weight hit and sit for 3.
So Sam, I have a question for you. When you're throwing these inside-out hits towards towards the sideboards, is there anything that you keep in mind or think differently instead of when you're throwing them outside in?
I know a lot of younger teams tend to want to pop it because they think, oh, it's going to curl so hard, right? But you have to believe in your sweeper and believe in the fact that they can really hold a rock going inside out, and same with finishing a rock. So if you choose a weight like board where you can finish or keep straight a stone going inside out, I think that's a really good weight choice.
Okay.
As you see there, that was probably a little more weight than the skip called, and that's why it stayed a little straighter.
I see.
And Keaton has a chance here to split the rings and sit 2. And I know Acres has hammer, but that's better than what it looked like before for Team Ramsay.
Yeah, well, I think it's really interesting and something that we should keep an eye out, how Keaton's strategy is, instead of going on the defensive to negate certain problems or whatever, they go on the offensive and potentially draw an unforced error out of a team. And I think that's a really interesting approach to kind of getting out of sticky situations. So I think obviously the execution of that is going to have to happen, and the execution at the end of the day is what puts the points on the board. But it'll be interesting to see if this is a reoccurring pattern or just something that the skip of Team Ramsay thinks is best. So. Team Ramsay was going really hard to get by that blue rock top 12-foot, and they just ticked it. So I think it's going to be Emma Acres trying to
looks like Team Acres is going to try and make this hit and roll towards the other yellow to keep their multiple in play. I like the ice Emma chose. We've seen a lot of hits down the center line, and it kind of, if you throw a good amount of weight, it reacts the same way.
Okay, so I have an observation. So I know, pardon me, but right now, the yellows aren't dead even, but there's a little bit of spacing distance in the house. So do you ever think Emma would try to just go for a nose hit on the yellow and then go for a nose hit on the blue so that it leaves a steeper angle so that the double is easier to be made?
Well, they're doing what you just explained, so we'll find out.
Well, I love it when they listen.
It'll be interesting. I like to think Keaton is going to play the hit here because blue is sitting shot, but they are discussing it. With her and Abby are discussing, and they are going to play the hit. I like the hit. I think right on the nose, you're still going to be sitting 2, and the double is going to be tough because that other blue comes into play a little bit, right? So they'll hit that back end of the other blue, and it might only be for 2 and not 3. So it's risk reward for sure. I like if Keaton Johnson noses and makes her play the double, because yes, they make the double to tie game. Kudos to Emma for making a great shot. But if you get a miss, you're going to be up 3, right? So I like the nose from Keaton Johnson here.
No, that's true. I think, again, it goes back to what if you leave your opponent after
absolutely.
The dust settles. And I think that's something that's important to take into consideration.
Like Savannah with a big sweep
to
hold the stone, and she does. It's a great shot. Yeah. Then see what I mean? Now the double is quite hard, and I think you might see Emma go for the draw. Which, it's a little nervy throwing a draw against 2 in the second end. But if that's what you're confident in, that's absolutely what I'd play.
Yeah, I think it goes back to one of my old coaches saying it's never wrong to put a point on the board. And unless the result of the game isn't finished until all 8 ends are played. So taking a point now is not a bad thing, especially considering the second end is an even end.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of game left to play, and giving more points right now can only make it more difficult later.
Yeah. I had Connor Laws once told me a couple of years ago that his best advice he's ever been given from a coach is not being afraid to take one. And that goes for blank attempts, that goes for hitting and sticking rather than drawing, that goes for a lot of opportunities. And she's confident in the draw, and the sweeper is sweeping pretty hard, so. Looks like a big dig, it looks really close.
It's a huge sweep.
It's a great sweep and a great draw from Emma Akers for her 1 point.
Yeah. Kudos to Shannon for a great sweep. Maya, dang it.
No Shannon.
No Shannon.
Gotcha.
We need like a bulletin board for okay.
Coaches just need to give us a list.
Yeah, they need to follow the rules. Pardon us. Yeah, but
no, it was a great shot by Emma Akers and keeps the game in grasp. Within 1, absolutely. Now it'll be interesting to see if we see our first guard called of the game, and it looks like we are. So that's good to see. A little more aggressiveness, kind of like the first game this morning.
Yeah, well, I think the ladies have had a chance to kind of get zoned in, figure out what's going on with the ice, and then now they're here to play. They're here to execute, and they want to try to apply that pressure to the other team. So not Maya.
That's a great guard by Team Akers to start off the aggressiveness. And Savannah's doing what she's getting paid for, sweeping head down to get that corner guard in play. And as you can see by Abby walking behind the rock, they're following the COVID rules, which means you need to be 6 feet behind the stone. The second sweeper needs to be 6 feet behind the stone. So it's great to see. And we're going to see Maya throw a draw around her center guard that she just put up. So, and that's what I love about the sport of curling, is all 8 shots are very important in every end. Long are the days where, you know, you could put a lead that wasn't the strongest. You need 4 strong curlers on your team. As you can see by a team like Team Homan, where they switched up their lineup this year to try to get as effective as possible. A lot of people love Lisa, so a lot of people didn't agree with it, but you know, you're just trying to get a competitive edge over anybody else, and that's what these U18 players are doing too, right? So it's really good to see the competitive atmosphere. It's good to see that all 4 curlers on each team are throwing great shots, and though that rock came a little bit short, it's still in the center line area, and it'll still come into play to be aggressive enough for your steal. And they are playing towards the glass, but they are in the 3rd end because we staggered sheets 2 and 4, so the games are happening on opposite. They're going the opposite way just to create as much space as possible. And here in Dundas, it's a 5-sheet club, but sheet 3 we are not using, as it is where our cameras are. But it also creates space in between sheets 2 and 4, and just trying to keep everyone as spaced as possible and be as safe as possible while still playing the sport that we all love. So Emma Akers is going for a tap. She's calling a tap. And Maya, for her 3rd stone, is going to try and tap the stone that she just put up there. Now, way out here, it can stay very straight. So we'll see how this goes. They might just have to play the straight draw. Big sweep from Ava. And it just rubs off. And this is a total opposite end from what we've seen the last 2 ends. Is now we have every rock in play. It'll be interesting to see what Keaton Johnson decides to call. She calls the draw through the port. That is it's not an easy port, so this will be a great shot. No one's really seen this path yet. So we'll be able to see if Savannah can maneuver through this. You can see the thrower is talking to the sweepers, and the sweepers are talking to the skip. The communication for the first game of the year for some of these teams is really, really good already. We said that in our first game too, and for the men's draw, and this is the first ladies draw that we've had, and it's already great communication. This one seems to be running a little bit heavy, so it ran a little straighter, and not the result they wanted. But it also opens up that center and puts another one of your yellows in the center area to be able to run back like they just did to the blue one. So now Emma is going to decide whether she wants to split the house or throw a center guard. Either one will work. I like the split. It's a tough hole because the high center guard is on that side, so they're going to have to really skinny both of those guards. So Ava's going to try and maneuver this port. And great communication by the skip. The skip saying, no, this needs to curl, get off, and it just rubs. And we have a very interesting end going on. And it looks like Keaton wants to draw around the pile of guards on the right side. So as we multitask and try to get all of the names correct for each team, so that's what we're trying to do right now. But Savannah's in the hack, trying to make this draw through the port to sit shot stone. Abby is sweeping. Head down. Looks like they're going hard for line. And this is the curling side. We've seen this side dive really hard the first game, and it's still curling quite a bit, which is great to see because these young curlers get to learn how to curl on this very swingy ice. And, you know, both teams are trying to beat each other behind this great wall of guards that we have on the right side. So each skip, you know, after every shot, there seems to be more and more ice being taken, and eventually whoever figures it out is going to be the first one in that top 4. Ava is going to try to maneuver this port. And I think, especially on the curly side, I think rotation is very, very important, and this looks like she has a good amount of rotation. And still over curls on them, but they make the double tap like the coach wanted, and it just gets into the rings to sit too. As Keaton looks over it, I'm pretty sure I'm right, but the camera might be off. Keaton's asking Abby what she wants to throw. And it looks like they're still going to try and get through. Oh, we're playing the run back now. I like that call. It opens up the center so Keaton has a shot. And just a little bit of communication from end to end to figure out what they want. And they're going to switch to draw around the top 4 foot. Just for learning purposes, I would probably play the shot that they just played, just because, yes, it's been missed by both teams a few times, but you're starting to learn that path. If you gave them a little more ice, you're going to get by, and obviously the first one by is huge because you're going to be shot rock, but they might prove me wrong. This needs to curl a little bit, and it's trying. Maybe just a little heavy. But it leaves their yellow in a good spot to be able to tap. Yellow is now, blue is now maybe sitting 3. It's quite close. Yellow does have hammer. Keaton Johnson does have hammer, so Emma Akers is going to want to guard those yellow taps. That's what she's explaining to her team right now. Just to give an update across all the other sheets, sheet 5, it was another steal of 1 for Team Madden. And for sheet 4, there was a steal of 5 for Team Madaw. And for sheet 1, it was a steal of 1 in the second end for Team Salarai. Back to our sheet, it looks like they're trying to sweep this one over. It was a great sweep by Maya to make that double tap as hard as possible. And both teams don't know if that front blue one is in or not, so if that does come into play, there'll definitely be a measure. But Keaton Johnson's going to want to try and tap that yellow one into the shot rock, so I think that's what they're going to be going for.
like Keaton is attempting, I believe it's a double peel to kind of open up that center. So, thrown by Abby. Oh, a run back onto the one in the house?
Yeah.
Line's really close for that.
Yeah, it is really close. It's a great sweep by Savannah. And at least it cuts out those two biters.
Yeah.
You're not shot rock, but your yellow is out counting the other two, whether they decide to hit or not.
So it looks like Akers is just trying to plug the hole that Team Ramsay just kind of opened up a smith.
I think it's really interesting because I think you can see that wide yellow, so it'll be, but they want to keep the aggression on, guard the hole, because you can't really get to the shot rock right now with how many rocks are in play.
Yeah, and I like the guard because if you think about where the guard's in the front, all the shrapnel that's there, it's very hard to get to the 8-foot just by throwing a draw right now. So I think even though that rock that's half in the 8-foot at the top of the house, although it looks kind of innocent, compared to where the other guards are, it's going to be a little difficult to get in there.
As you can see on Emma Akers' mask, you see the tape over the nose. I saw a lot of glasses curlers use that so the fog doesn't come up while they're throwing, and I know two of my sweepers have glasses and they use tape over the nose, and it's really works for the recreational curlers that are, because I know curling clubs are starting to open. Just a tip for if you're wearing glasses. This looks like it wants to curl.
Maybe they can chip that blue guard.
One of them over. Maybe. Still very hard to get to shot rock.
It is.
I think you're going to see Keaton try and just draw the edge of 4-foot here through that hole, and I think that's exactly what she's playing. Not an easy shot, but it's the only shot right now. So. It's good to see. Now Emma is going to attempt to draw to the top 8 foot behind those 2 high yellow guards, as you see up there, and sit 2 to put as much pressure on Keaton Johnson as possible. So she just drew for 1 against 2, so her draw weight is gonna be close. Maya is head down sweeping right out of her hand. And this new path might have caught them off guard, and it just like it's gonna overcurl. Great sweep to get it over the hog line. Now Keaton's gonna decide what she wants to throw. I think she's going to ask how much they can see of that blue one in the hack from Savannah and Hannah. And I like that she's bringing in the sweepers to talk about what shot we should play. It's really important that the team is all engaged and all know what the shot is. Because if you can get onto the inside of that yellow with a board weight hit and get your 2, that's huge to get a 3-point lead. But I think it's really important to score. So it looks like she's playing the yellow tap for 1, which is probably an easier shot than the draw through the hole. Because as we saw with Emma's, that hole isn't easy because it's a different path, it's a different draw time than the path they've been playing. Looks like they're playing hit weight, so it looks like they might be trying to pick the blue one, is what they decided to do. Or, okay, a run back as the coach. Just for 2, it looks like they're going to try and say, well, like what I said on the first stone, the first time. It will be interesting to see if this stays straight way out wide like it does on the other side of the ice. We've seen the side be very curly. So we'll see what Keaton does. She's lined up, ready to go. Savannah's calling the weight. Now let's see what they decide. Looks like the straight tap, and if it sits in time, it's a great shot for 1 by Keaton Johnson. With every rock in play, she makes the shot for her 1. And we'll play the next end once they clean up all 32 stones.
What I was missing, because I never knew I was only 8 months, so I just sort of assumed it was normal until I grew up and realized that it wasn't.
You know, people that actually knew her, and when you talk about her, I think that's what I feel her most, or even when I'm there myself, I can feel it.
It was always pretty cool as a way to know her without knowing her, to see that someone would want to have a foundation in her honor. It just shows that she wants to be such a community person.
We support the Savage Mother Foundation.
So with these miracle babies, we have the chance to grow up and enjoy life.
So it looks like Hannah's first stone they called a center guard. It just came up light. So now they're going to try and get Maya to throw their corner guard here to set up this third end. 3-2 is the score, as you can. Oh,
3-1 is the score.
So they're gonna try and get their deuce here. This guard needs to sit. Just slides in.
But even though that's supposed to be corner guard slid in, I actually don't mind where it is because it's to the wings. It's in the corner, potentially drawing play out there, but it looks like Keaton isn't having any of that. It looks like Keaton is looking for a center line guard. Savannah is putting every muscle into that sweep. Abby?
Abby put every muscle into that sweep.
Oh, man.
You know what? Just to tell everyone at home, we do have the list of names with the correct names in front of us, and we still
messed it
up. No excuses anymore. We'll work on that.
Yeah.
Maya just is going to go for the corner guard and try to guard her draw that she just put in the rings.
It looks close, considering Ava's just dusting it into place, which is always good. It's always good to see that practice of just cleaning to make sure everything stays as is, no picks.
It's a great shot.
Nice.
It's exactly what you want to see when you're down 2 is a corner guard and a draw right around it. And you're going to try and see Keaton Johnson is calling the corner freeze. So we want to see Savannah put it right up against the blue stone in the rings.
So what do you think about this call, Sam? Do you like bringing the play out to the wings? Are you thinking maybe a center line guard or just top 4 in the center of the rings? What are you thinking about this call?
I think up 2. I don't mind this call solely because the center guard isn't always helpful for you either. Being up 2. If you're down, I think you're throwing the center guard. There is an audible where you can draw around both of those and sit in the back 8 if this starts to sit.
Ooh.
Which Keaton is encouraging it to sit.
Yeah.
No, Keaton, you can't sweep, but there we go. She learned, her sweeper told her, and it did that, exactly that, the audible.
Yeah. She doesn't, the Rock doesn't need her assistant. It knows where to go.
Yeah, exactly. So. And that's a great audible. I like that because now with Savannah's second stone, she can peel the guard that's there, or follow the draw that Maya puts in there, and I don't mind it at all. It brings play to the wing. If you make the right freezes, you'll get your force. Now, for Emma Akers' team, they want to make this freeze, and hopefully it comes off the center line, which it is, and it looks really close.
Yeah, it looks like Maya did a good job with this one. It might be a little bit strong, but bumping that curl.
And your shot rock in the top, so it does the job.
Yeah.
You know, you wanted to sit around and sit too, but the outcome isn't bad. Because now you're sitting one behind the corner. If your team, Keaton, being up 2, this draw is maybe a little aggressive. But she did just throw it, right?
Yeah, well, and I think it's something that, I don't know if it was you or I who pointed it out earlier on. It seems like Keaton's way of getting out of maybe a sticky situation or an uncomfortable placement of rocks is always with offense. And I think that's a really interesting way to combat that, because you would see many teams either peel the corner, try to hit, get rid of stones, clear it out, but she wants the rocks in play. And I think the scoreboard as of right now kind of shows that her style of play seems to be working.
Absolutely.
In contrast to Team Akers. So I think it'll be interesting to see if that sort of play continues, and maybe if Team Akers switches their strategy to counter what Keaton is putting out there.
Absolutely. It's definitely just a big chess match, and that's what I love about being a skip, is that you have to adapt to what the other team's strategy is playing. Sometimes they're not going to play to what you want them to play like, so you have to adapt to mid-game adjust like Emma Akers is. Being down 2, she's throwing a hit, which you wouldn't think would come right away, but she gets to hit and try to sit 2 here. And it looks close.
Oh, Maya's on it.
Head
Trying
down
to
sweep it by Maya.
hold the line. Do you think they could flip under? No.
Either way.
Yeah. They're even.
I like the weight they decided on that. Like, I know it's heavier than what maybe we would have expected, but it's easy coming off the center line. They knew what heavyweight was going to do, and it looked smooth.
Yeah, like, and I think that's one thing too, especially as teams progress through the age ranks from U18s to U20 to adults to whatever you want to call it. That weight control becomes a key part of the game, making sure that you throw the right weight, call the right shot, and make it. And I think the right weight is a huge factor in that. So it's good to see that both of these teams look at that shot by Savannah. Come on, it was Savannah, right? No way.
It was Abby.
God dang it.
We're retiring Ryan for the rest of the game.
Man.
You go take a break.
It's been a rough one, I tell you.
I'll take over the rest of the commentating.
But even with that shot that Abby just threw there, great weight.
Yeah.
Bring the sweeper into the play and help you make the best shot for your team.
Absolutely.
So,
and you're going to see a couple of trading hits. I think Emma Akers is calling for the hit and roll, so she continues to sit 2. With Ava throwing and Maya sweeping. Another head down sweeping by Maya, and looks like she's going to get the... Oh, almost just over. Cooks it. Tries to spin back, but yellow is sitting second shot in the back.
and look at that.
Another aggressive call, and that's just kind of their strategy.
Yeah,
and it seems to be working. So
it's right out of Team Ramsay's playbook, and it's a different approach. But if you look at the scoreboard and you look at the execution of the team, it's working. And I think it's an example of one of those things that maybe unpredictable or maybe more unorthodox approaches can work as long as you continue to execute.
Absolutely.
So
looks like a hard finish from Savannah here to make sure their third shot, and they are. So that takes that blue right out of the end.
Who's third
blue?
shot?
Blue is definitely sitting 1 in the top 12. So Emma's going to call the split the rings, sit 2, and that's kind of their goal, is just to get the deuce and tie the game. Abby is throwing this time.
Abby is throwing.
Yes.
She's getting cronked, as her mask says. So.
Oh, wrong team.
Oh my goodness, Sam.
That was my fault.
Why are you leading me astray? I'm already lost. Okay.
I blame the
Ava.
coaches for not having the exact lineup in
but
our
that was
book.
Ava.
Yes. And
I was gonna say Ava.
Maya's
and then
encouraging it to slow down, and it's trying.
close.
It's really trying. Sit. Oh,
Wow.
that's close. My trained eye says 2 blue.
My train. Oh.
You know, don't doubt me.
It's really close between the 2 rocks in the back 12 foot.
And Keaton, I like their call. Keaton Johnson's going to play the freeze here. Abby is going to hold the broom. See, 2 for 2 right now.
Yeah, you say that now.
Yep. Savannah and Hannah will be following the stone down the ice.
Savannah and Hannah.
Yes, I like it. I got that all right that time.
Yeah, it rhymes. It should be easier to remember, you'd think.
But you know what? By the end of the weekend, we'll probably say most of their names are correct.
That's the goal. But no, I think again, and it's just stereotype Keaton's, like it's just how her game is set. Because if you think about it as well, if she freezes to this rock, and she does it in such a way where it's either nose or maybe a little bit leaning towards the center line, we're good. that, sorry about that, that freeze will completely negate the other blue stone that is 100% shot. So I think it'll, oh, looks a little hot.
Oh, is there a hole there? Oh,
she found it.
she did hit it where yellow is now probably sitting second shot.
So it sounds like we have an interesting development on this side of the glass. I think one of the coaches just said he wanted to call a timeout so he could get screen time. And I think that would be a great idea. We love to support our coaches no matter what team they're for. And if he wants screen time, this is the sheet where you can make that happen. We're all for it.
We'll let the viewers figure out which coach said that from which
we'll
team.
keep it anonymous. But anyways, Emma coming out looking to draw to the wing. It seems to be a little faster. We have a lot of draws ending up a little heavy, but this one certainly is not.
Making
Maya,
you bite your tongue on this one.
I know, but Maya is giving all she has for that sweep, and it just seems to come up a little bit short.
It looks like Keaton's going to try and chase the rock that's behind the corner guard and sit 2, which is aggressive, but that's been her nature of this game. But you know what? I think Keaton Johnson had a game plan. They're sticking to it. All 3 ends you've seen the aggressive play, and that's exactly what they're doing right now. It looks like yellow is sitting second in the back 12 foot. It's hard to tell. So I don't mind just trying to split that blue one, sit 2, and make Emma Akers throw against 2. It's not an easy shot by any means. But, you know, if you're light and you make the draw around the corner guard and sit 1 back 8 foot, that's also a really good shot too.
And I think the thing that it's important to keep in mind for this shot is that you do not have to remove that blue stone. You just have to push it about a foot. You just have to push it so that the back stone is the one that's counting, and then your shooter will count as well. So it'll be, it's coming down. It's really close to the guard.
Yeah, Savannah's been off and on. Abby's calling her off, and it just under curls.
I don't mind the weight call for that, or the weight that was thrown for that, though. If you can get about a third of that stone,
yeah,
you're doing pretty good.
I agree. So now Emma's gonna take the same line she just did and just add about 10 more feet of weight and bite the 8 foot for her draw for 2. Emma's gonna try and she's gonna take the same path she just did. Ava's holding the broom and Maya is gonna be sweeping. And she threw a similar path in the second end for her draw for 1, so this should be close. I like that she has the same routine every time she gets in the hack, settles in, aims at the broom. Sometimes people overcomplicate curling, so sometimes you just need to aim at the broom and throw, and that's exactly what she did. Maya called heavy out of her hand, but she's starting to sweep now. She's going to have to dig for this one to get there. And I just think the ice is slowing down a little bit and curling a little more, so it's just catching them off guard. So the Vices are going to look to see who's second shot. I think blue is definitely first shot. So yeah, it looks like one blue in the fourth end. So after 4, our score is 3-2 for Keaton Johnson or Team Ramsay, as you see on the screen. And we have no other score updates right now.
Yeah, and I think it's something that Team Ramsay should really take into consideration, considering that they have hammer. It's always important that there's a little bit of space for the skipper to come in and make that draw to the forefoot or whatever they need to do to make sure that the end goes according to plan. And so here is Ava. I think I got it right, so that's good. Ava is throwing, and Maya is sweeping. Line looks close. Great throw by Ava and a great judge by Maya.
Great line call.
Great team shot. It's just a great team shot.
I like the call from Keaton here to open up that front. Make the tap so they can get to that blue stone. It's a very mature call. Some people would just be aggressive and try and follow them down, and I like that she's playing this. When she looked at the scoreboard, she's up one. This is absolutely the call to try and split those yellows.
Yeah, onto the rings, and
Yeah.
I think this is a really mature call because you're getting a 2-in-1 right now. You're getting, I'm opening up that back forefoot rock, which is hurting me right now, as well as advancing a couple of my stones that I have in the control zone into the house. And I think given Keaton's approach to curling, I'm not surprised in the aggressive call, but it's good to see that she saw it because it's not the most straightforward shot. It looks like
It's a great shot.
Yeah, they got 2 in the rings there, which is
It's exactly what they called.
yeah, that's what you're looking for when you have hammer. Even if at this moment in time, even if you aren't shot rock, it doesn't matter as much because we don't count the points now. We count the points later. So as long as Keaton is taking a proactive approach to get things in the house that can score, as well as maybe maneuver some of the opponent's stones out of the way so that those other points can score, then I think they're sitting well right now.
This is a very defensive call from Emma Akers, playing the short run back, getting rid of one of those yellows, sitting 2. Some people would have thrown that high guard to guard their shot stone. I like this call because it is only a 1-point game, so this run back is definitely makeable. Now it looks like they're wide enough where they hit that straight side. This could be in danger of hitting their blue stone.
Ooh, that was close.
Yes, but gets the peel, and now they can see that yellow stone.
Yeah, and I think next time too, just in considering degree of difficulty, I don't mind the idea of removing one of the yellow stones, but I think as you look at it right now on the right hand side of the screen, that yellow rock that was exposed, so I think you can make a hit and roll off of that one, and it gets the same sort of thing across that Akers was looking for, but just with a lower degree of difficulty. But at the same time, moving that guard, open that side up, and it looks like Keaton is going. Did you see the call? Is it a tap?
Abby's throwing a run back here.
A run back. Oh, okay.
To try and sit 3, and this looks quite close.
What a
Great
sweep
shot.
That was a great team
shot.
shot. Saw that little fist pump there.
Yeah.
Always like
a blink of an eye. Team Ramsay is now sitting 3. If you're Team Akers, what do you think is the best call here, being down 1?
So if I'm Team Akers, I'm thinking my opposition has 3 stones in the house. We should try to remove one of them, and if you can remove either of them, so either the one that they just attempted to play the run back on shot previous, or hit and roll into that middle, because right now it's not sitting well for Emma Akers and team to steal. The house just isn't set up that way. So I think right now the mindset needs to shift from steal to force. And I think a great way to do that is to hit and roll one of those rocks. But it looks really close going through the hole here.
And you know what? That works because you did eliminate 1 yellow stone. It wasn't the call, but it was definitely a good audible because now you have that blue in the control zone. Yes, yellow is sitting too, but that definitely works.
No, it does, and I think I like that Keaton went up there and she kind of recognized that that rock zone 3, that's what Akers is going to use to get out of that end. And that
Absolutely.
she needs to either have some angle set up or push that rock or move it somewhere to make sure that Akers doesn't have a chance to get out of this one. It looks like she's calling for, I believe it was a top 8 foot, top 4 foot draw behind that guard.
Yeah, and I like this call a lot because it kind of takes that shot away from Akers when made.
But I think it's something that we noticed in the first draw is that as the ends go on, as the ice wears down, we seem to see a little bit more curl. And I think, especially this end, considering the run back and that shot, and there's been a couple others where it's just a little bit of over curl, I think the back ends of both teams need to identify that and then make the adjustment accordingly. But looking at looking at what Akers is seeing there, I think she's looking at that yellow-blue combination in the control zone near the front of the house. And I believe they're trying to see if they can get that blue rock to drag and hit that yellow rock that's just behind the button. So I think it'll be interesting to see what happens, what comes out of this shot. It's hard to tell the degree of the stagger, and it's hard to tell what the separation is, because both of those two things would impact that drag, that the yellow rock is dragging the blue rock. But I think it's mostly lined up, which is good. So I don't mind this call that Akers has. I think the only thing that she needs to keep in mind is that keeping a shooter around is really important here, because I believe yellow is first and second shot. It's close on the wings, but I think yellow is sitting 2 right now. And if she clears these guards, that's the chance that she has to get out of this end. So it's coming in now. Ooh, so I think they just dragged it the wrong way. It was really close, lined up right onto it. I think the other turn might have been a better choice to get the amount of drag they were looking for. The other thing I didn't mind there would have just been like a little tap on that combination. Promote that forward so that it's behind those wall of guards, and it would put Keaton and Team Ramsay in a little bit of a tricky spot. So it looks like Keaton and Abby are deciding the best place to draw a third point into the house, considering Akers has one more point coming up. Score update on sheet 5. Team Beauchamp stole 1 in the 4th end against Team Madden, making them be the ones who are leading 3-2, playing the 5th end. Madden with hammer. So I think Keaton decided on placing that stone, I believe it was about mid 8 foot, between top 12, top 8 foot, half buried around that center line guard. I think they have enough ice in this spot considering how swingy it is. But I think it will really depend on release. As we talked about previously, the release and the amount of rotations that each athlete puts on the stone really does impact the trajectory of it.
Absolutely. And we talked about once you gain more experience, and once you gain more experience on curly ice, you definitely adapt that more rotations. You definitely adapt throwing on the ice that you're on, because you know, the pros have to adapt from going on arena ice where they need 5 rotations, 4.5, 5 rotations to keep the stone in play, to go to curling club ice where they need about 3.5 roughly. So it's definitely something you need to adjust to, and the fact that we're on arena ice, we're on the curling club ice here at Dundas Valley Country Club, but it's curling that much that they do need to have those 4 rotations to keep that stone on that side. So it's a decision time for Emma Akers here.
Yeah, I think she's just deciding right now if... Oh, timeout by one of the coaches. Looks like they get screen time first. And I think it's a good time during the course of the match to have a team conversation, because as we repeatedly discussed in the men's section, it's at that point in time where it's a crucial part, and the thing that's important is that all team members are on the same page when they're throwing these critical shots that could determine the outcome of the game, or at least dramatically impact the game.
Yeah,
and
I think this is a great timeout.
Yeah, and I think right now too, just in terms of the momentum and the structure of the end, if I'm Emma, I'm thinking, I am drawing against 3 right now. This could be a lot just to think about mentally. And I think right now her coach is going out and just reassuring her that, know what, as long as you're partially buried behind that yellow guard at the top of the tee line, you don't have to be frozen to it. You don't have to be shot. You just need to make sure that you're cutting out those other 2 rocks that are in play, second and third shot for Team Ramsay, and just make sure that you're really forcing Keaton to throw a really tough, precise draw, and especially on the side where you're getting the most swing.
Oh, and they decide on the hit. So what you just explained is not the scenario they're going to choose.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting call on the hit. They could have chosen the hit, Sam, if they thought they were shot, if they thought their blue rock at the front was shot over the other yellow.
Just take your medicine and,
and
make Keaton make her draw for 2.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't mind that. I just don't know.
It's definitely the easier shot over the draw, because we see that side is curling so much. That draw is it's not easy. And so I think they decide, you know what, let's make the hit and stick, the hit and roll under, make our opposing team make the draw for 2.
Yeah, exactly. And it goes back to what we were saying before about what do you leave?
Yeah.
If we're leaving them an open draw with no backing, that's not an easy shot, especially given that it's for a multiple score.
Yeah. And this looks like it is curling, but she
got
what
rid of
she
it.
wanted.
Yeah.
It looks like it's a draw for 3.
Yeah, I feel that.
Full 12 foot.
Yeah, I think if Keaton had any doubt in her mind, if blue was second shot, I feel like they would have made sure to remove it. But even a 2 score right now for Team Ramsay is really helpful in the long run, especially if they're going to play all 8 ends and they continue to score on odd ends. It's good to make sure that they're ahead.
Yeah, and we've explained this multiple times, but these open draws, you don't want to think in your head that it's a draw to just full 12 foot. You want to put it as close to the pin as possible for confidence for the whole team, and I think that's her goal, Keaton's goal here. And it's never a bad thing when your sweeper's just cleaning the stone. But as I say that, now Savannah's head down, sweeping the whole way. So
I think it's just making sure, and I think that's never a bad thing to do, especially when you're drawing for extra. To me,
it's a great shot.
It is, and you want to be aiming for pin or even back 4 is okay.
Yeah.
So it's good to see that they followed that. I think they're looking around to see if they moved it. So it must have been 3, I guess.
I think it was a draw for 3. So it's a great shot right to the edge of pin. And you know what it's good to see is the camera's not on it, but both skips, they're keeping socially distanced, but they're still talking to each other. They're still having fun out there, because they know that this is the first game for most of these teams. And it's good to see that, you know, yes, we're in a competitive atmosphere, but you're still having fun, and I think that's the most important part.
No, exactly, because it's all about the spirit of curling, right? And I think although the pandemic is happening, although there's difficult things happening for people, it's important to keep that spirit of curling alive, and I think these ladies are showing a great example of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So Hannah is going to put her first stone. Looks like Keaton is calling for a tight guard, which, you know, most teams being up 4 wouldn't call a tight guard. They would probably go top 4, but that's her aggressive nature, and, you know, they had a game plan going into this game, and they're definitely executing it.
No, exactly, and I think that's a great point, Sam. I think both teams had some sort of strategy coming in, and maybe Keaton's strategy is a little bit unorthodox. Maybe it's something that Emma and Team Acres hasn't seen before, and I think as long as that strategy is being executed appropriately and effectively, that's making the difference right now. But there's still plenty of game left. Although there's a few points different in the scoreboard, they still have half a game to play. So if I'm Team Acres, I'm happy I'm playing in the 6th end. I'm happy that we're throwing a corner guard, and I'm happy that we're going for a multiple score, because that's what they're looking for. And that's a great corner guard by Maya, nice and tight, potentially splittable if need be. I believe we'll see the come around by Hannah around the corner guard, but that side seems to really be curling. It looks a little light as well, but I think as the game goes on, just like we saw earlier today, the more the ice will break down, the more curl you will have, which means that it's important to have those positive releases, and that it's really important to make sure that you're throwing it to your sweepers, but you're also giving them enough to make sure it can get there. Because earlier on, the ice can carry for a few feet. Ava going really hard to get it in, and it just came up short. But considering where Acres is in the game, down a few points, there's nothing wrong with having another guard out there, because it's just another thing for you to hide it behind, just another thing that you could split. Right now, if you're Team Acres, any rock, especially any rock that's your rock, is a good rock, because it's something that you can make an opportunity with, something that maybe you can cause an unforced error with. And I think that's really what they're looking for right now. And it looks like Keaton is calling the come around. Sweepers seem to be off it, but it seems close. Keaton's waving it onto Curl. Oh, and it buried. About half buried behind that blue stone Team Acres just threw. So this is Maya's last stone of this end, and Emma is calling her to come around that draw that Team Ramsay just placed top 12 foot. I like this call because Team Acres is trying to use and access those guards that they put up in the first place. I think it's close. It's getting a little tight online. But Ava's doing a great job at holding that straight. Even if it just gets a nibble. Seemed to come up just short, but at the same time, Team Acres is not far off. If you look at Maya's first 3 shots, they're quite consistent in weight, and I think that bodes well for them in the sense that she has an understanding of the weight and the weight control, and it's just giving it that little bit extra to make sure it gets there is all that needs to happen.
So to keep the aggressiveness going in this game, we will not have every rock in play as there is one yellow rock in the back, but we'll probably have all the other stones come into play, which just makes the game more fun. So Keaton Johnson is going to try and draw around the Great Wall in front of the rings here. And I just think both teams are getting caught up on this new side. We haven't played this side much. And the draw weight's going to be different, the line's going to be different, so I think both teams are just trying to dial in the draw here. And this one looks like it's going to get past the guards with a big sweep by Savannah. And they get shot stone, looks like just. But it is wide open, so Team Acres, Emma's going to call the hit and roll behind the 6 guards that is out front. And when you're down 4, every rock in play is good for you, whether it's the opposing stone or not, as my coach Stuart Anderson always told me. So Ava is going to try and make the hit and roll here.
It looks close for, I thought it was close for line, but Emma waved her off.
Looks like it just rolls out of the rings, but blue is still sitting one.
Yeah, so it's really an interesting setup here, and I think this is actually a similar pattern that we saw in the draw earlier today with the guys, is that although teams have, besides sheet 4, they seem to be playing a little bit more of an open style. Oh, not this end, but previously they were. But it seems like the other teams, even if one team seems to be pulling away score-wise from the other one, they still try to keep it interesting, aggressive, and have a few rocks in play. So it's just interesting to see that that's how some teams, that's some team's strategy, is that when we're up, let's get off the ice as soon as possible.
Keep the, as my coach once said, keep the gas pedal down.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when you're feeling it and you're dialed in. Why not just keep the pressure on? Live stream fell off. So if you were watching Team Adaw's Facebook Live. Welcome to our live stream.
We promise our cameras won't fall off. But we pray for Sherry Madaw's phone, as we don't like phones with cracks on them.
So both draws, looks like both teams have caught up into this kind of straighter side, because it is a little faster on this side. Because it's just, you know, it is 2 to 3 feet straighter when you get out of that 8-foot line.
Yeah, and I think something to keep in mind is that Rob Matheson is a great ice maker here, and the ice is very good, but stereotypically
absolutely.
you're going to have one side, especially if there's a lot of righties that like to throw interns like myself. You're going to have one side that's a little bit more worn down.
Absolutely.
And I think that side is the side that is blocked off by all of the shrapnel out front. And I think just having to throw this other side is something that they haven't done often. And I think changing it up is something that could only benefit Team Acres right now. But it'll be interesting to see if both teams can adapt to this side of the ice just as well as they did the other.
And see, once the rock gets close to the center line, it really dives and it goes right toward. Look at it grab.
I think that picked something.
Yeah, definitely picked up something, but it
Rob's
joins the great wall that is the left side of the sheet.
To say the least, yes, it does. I think there was a magnet in that yellow one rock up there, and it just wanted a friend. It felt so lonely. So now it has.
Now Team Acres has a chance here to put the pressure on and sit 2 here, and if they can get one nice top 4 above the T line, behind those guards, and really put the pressure on Keaton to follow her down, to force her to a tough draw for 2. So definitely advantage Acres right now.
Yeah. Sam, what do you think about where the broom is positioned for Team Acres right now? If we forget the rock that was just thrown by Team Ramsay, it looked like it picked. I don't feel like we've seen many that have gotten too close to that center line guard.
I like where it is solely because we haven't seen a draw that's been perfect weight. So we haven't seen both. The last 2 have been a little heavy, and then that one grabbed. So the heavy one stayed a lot straighter, and maybe I'm eating my own words because this one doesn't look heavy and it's not curling either. So it might have been just a little bit too much ice, but it's hard to adjust from a really curly side to one that doesn't curl quite as much. And she threw a guard and it only curled about 3-4 feet. So I think for the future, if they ever play that side, again, you definitely want to take about mid-8, and they took edge. So I think mid-8 is going to be really close with good weight.
Yeah, and Maya was sweeping that all the way down there, getting as much life out of it as possible. So I think just a little less ice and a little more weight, and I think you would get that spot. But I don't mind where that guard is positioned, because right now that guard is kind of acting in favor of Team Acres, because it's forcing Team Ramsay out even wider than we've been before on a side of the ice that has been barely investigated. So I think that was a good miss, and I think it'll be interesting to see if Keaton can navigate even that much further out.
And I think that's what they're talking about, is like, what is our best guess? Because that's all you can do is your best guess. Because no one's been out this far, so let's say they've played the path 3 feet inside that, and they know the time for that. So let's just say it's going to be 4 feet slower out here.
Yeah.
So this is the time I want, and that's what. And as a sweeper, I know it's a hard job, but that's kind of, you have to guesstimate what that's going to do for your skip. So Savannah and Hannah told her what she wants, and Keaton's calling heavy out of her hand.
The one thing I just noticed watching this rock come down the ice, I look at the amount of handle. It looked like it might have grabbed something, but I think even just Keaton understanding that it's a little straighter out there might have softened up her handle a little, which would have gotten that curl. So as long as they put the broom down, knowing that that's how it would be thrown, then that's totally fine.
And it goes back to what we were talking about, having that consistent amount of rotation for what you like, and then adapting that rotation for different ice surfaces. It's definitely something that everyone works on from the beginner level to the pros. So looks like she tried to get a little more curl out of that stone than she wanted, and it just crashed. So it looks like a draw for 2. Is this? Yeah, this is last stone.
Last stone for Team
She
Acres.
needs full 8-foot, but like we've said many times, let's just put it on the pin.
Yeah, exactly. And I think right now, looking at the scoreboard, Team Acres is down 4 points. 2 points would eat that deficit in half. And I think it would also give them a little bit of momentum coming through. Maya is sweeping as hard as she can on that stone to get it where it needs to
really
go.
Close. This looks like a big sweep. It just doesn't have the legs. Maya swept the whole way.
Yeah.
So it'll be 1 blue for Team Acres. Make it a 6-3 after 6.
Yeah. And I think right now for Team Acres, even just getting the 1 point is necessary. I think getting the 2 is something that would have been really beneficial, but I think at the same time, you need to get on the board because it helps build that confidence and maybe just give some momentum to them. Because if there's one thing that we've seen over the past 2 games, is that there's never a shortage of points that are left out there.
Absolutely.
So they have a huge chance to steal a couple times and then they're right back in it.
Yeah, with the amount of rocks in play, I think it's definitely still anyone's game. And if the aggression still stays for both teams, I definitely think that Team Acres can come back and make it an interesting last 2 ends.
Yeah, I think right now both of the teams, it's execution at this point.
Yes, absolutely.
We've seen the developed strategies, we've seen the line calling, the sweeping, and right now it's about we need to make the shots, and we need to, and it's just that simple.
Yeah.
But it's not just that simple. But yeah,
It's really easy behind the glass.
Yeah, we're curling 100% so far up here, so I like that. But yeah, so
Maya's gonna try and put this tight guard.
So I just, interestingly enough on this guard, they got a little bit wider, but notice how it's coming in. Whereas heading down to the scoreboard on this side of the ice, it seems to just be that little bit straighter. So I think that's maybe something that if both teams were to use this side of the ice this end, something that they need to adjust for, because it's a difference between going to the glass versus the scoreboard.
Yeah, and it's definitely learning. Like, hopefully they're back on this sheet again in the playoffs, and they definitely want to remember these paths and remember the rocks and what they're doing. And it's a very complicated sport. And now Team Ramsay goes onto the curling side, and this stone is just diving.
Yeah,
it did not want it to go over, and it looks like it stopped in time.
Saw the little fist bump
means
there.
it's definitely stopped in time. So Team Acres is going to put their center guard up.
Yep.
They're perfectly fine with that. They just want as many rocks in play as possible.
Well, yeah, and even considering where that corner guard is, although it's not guarding a part of the scoring zone where there's a lot of 4-footer, the button, it's blocking off that draw path to the button, and I think that's something that's a little bit underrated in terms of guard placement. I think you can have those stones that are guarding specific zones in the house, but if you're putting up stones that are actually not allowing your opponents to get to a certain spot on the ice, those are just as, if not more effective, depending on the situation.
And though their center guards, one under-curled and one over-curled, it's still a double guard, right?
Yeah.
Like, it might not be over the button, but it's still rocks in play. You're still going to be able to draw around those guards, and you're still going to be able to
use them to make sure that you get that steal. Because if I'm Team Acres right now, I'm thinking, okay, we got our point, we needed it. Yeah. Now we need one more.
Yeah.
And then or two. But we're not going to get greedy because we're thieving already. So we'll start with 1, and then we'll build to 2 is the pathway for them.
If you ask them, they probably want 2.
Well, if you ask them, they probably want about 8. but I think
That's
right.
already out of play.
Yeah, I know, but I think anybody would want 8. But
Yeah.
I think for them right now, getting that momentum, getting those points on the board, really can do nothing but help them.
Yeah, and I think you're going to see a draw from Maya here around her guards that she threw up.
I think.
And tolerance, like if you throw a nice tight guard, nothing wrong with that either. And that's kind of looks like the way she missed was light, and that's the pro side miss for sure. It'll be interesting to see if you see Team Ramsay start peeling here.
I have a strong feeling you're not, Sam. I think. See, I've just got to say, Team Team Ramsay has been nothing but consistent. Although the coach just called a timeout, I'm totally for the draw. She's been consistent, she's been aggressive, and she's been going after it.
I am totally for the peel.
Well, I like the peel, but think about the scoreboard.
Yeah, I am.
But look at what style of play got them to where they are right now.
I agree with that statement.
I agree that the peel is the textbook call, but looking at the past 6 ends that Team Ramsay has played, they haven't played it textbook, and they've been performing well.
I know. I totally agree. I also agree with the coach, but the coach is probably telling them to peel.
Like, I think that
the peel, there's no harm in throwing the peel.
There's no.
You're not in danger right now.
Yeah, no,
You're
right. There's no harm in throwing the peel, but I'm not surprised that Keaton we're throwing the draw. We're gonna get off the ice right now. We're gonna score 2 or 3 more points and put it out of reach.
We will agree to disagree, and we'll move on from this conversation. We can do an update on all the other sheets, though.
So looking at sheet 1, Team Solari is leading 5-1, playing the 6th end right now with Team McDonald having hammer. And then on sheet 4, Team Madaw is leading Team Smith 7-2, playing the 6th end with Team Madaw having hammer. And last but not least, on sheet 5, we have Team Beauchamp leading Team Madden 4-2, playing the 6th end with Team Madden having hammer.
And it looks like they're going with the peel. we do not need to discuss it more, but I will gloat a little bit that coach told them to play my call.
Well, we'll just have to see how the last 2 ends play out, and then we'll see whose strategy was right.
And a great double peel.
That's a great shot.
Spin, spin, spin. Savannah made a great shot. So now there's 2 very wide corner guards. And if I'm Emma Akers, I'm either going to call the center guard or the draw around her blue corner. And that's exactly the 2 spots that she tapped. And I will take credit for that too. Her earpiece must be on.
The ego in this booth is just non-existent, as you can tell.
I have no comment. I like the center guard because you're only on your vice's first stone, or second's last stone. It's hard with the 3-man team. Ava's first stone.
Yeah.
You want to be more specific. But this looks hot. They're going to want it for it to catch the girl and slow down here, which it looks like it's trying to.
At the same time right now, though, I see a Team Akers steal of 1 possible.
Oh, I have no doubt in that.
And I think Keaton, after the conversation with their coach, kind of everyone getting on the same page, I think more of a defensive game strategy is going to be played. I think, and that's a good thing. But I think the other thing that needs to be considered too is that as long as this strategy is playing to the strengths of the team, then it'll be successful. It looks like there's a bit of an over curl throwing that handle that seems to move just that little bit extra.
It did get the blue guard though.
No,
so
it did.
There's not positive for that shot too. Just to update sheet 5, a big score of 6 to make the game 8-4 for Madden.
Out of nowhere.
Yeah.
It's just like, bam, they're 6.
And it looks like the yellow team called a timeout just to get everyone's emotions back in page. And you know what? You were leading that game. Why we can start leading it again by a good end. So that's good coaching, and I'm assuming that's what their coach is talking about right now.
Yeah, and
Back to our game. I like the guard call.
Yes.
This looks a little hot.
But it's bringing play to the middle, which right now can do nothing but benefit team makers.
Yeah.
And I think obviously you would like those rocks to settle a little bit further apart than they are right now. But at the end of the day, I think bringing play to the middle and forcing Keaton and Team Ramsay to the hardest shot is the best way to generate offense, the best way to get steals. Because right now, that's their path out of this game, is to get some steals going. So,
looks like a big sweep from Savannah.
yeah, Abby
This double.
throwing the double. It's really close.
And a great shot. Great sweep, great team shot. Just squeaks out the back. Now, if you're team makers, how aggressive do you want to be?
I like the freeze call. I think the scoreboard is more so dictating this strategy call than their own predetermined strategy. I think the scoreboard says it's time to score. It's time to score as much as you can. And the best way to do that is to try to generate an unforced error through making that freeze perfectly. And Team Acres has been the team who is taxed with throwing the draws. So they should have a little bit more experience and knowledge with that draw weight, finding the ice. So
It just looks like they get caught up on this curly side.
it looks a little light, but I like that they're putting another rock in play that can benefit their team.
Yeah.
Although, yes, it's not where you wanted it, any rock is a good rock at this point.
And just to update everyone for home, on sheet 1, Celery stole 5 to make that game a 10-1 game going into the 7th end.
Like we said, points are not hard to come by right now. They seem to be just flowing out of anywhere possible. And this is very comparable to what we saw in the men's draw as well. They're just, that aggressive play is great when you're the one in control, but switching gears, as we can see right now on our sheet with an attempted peel by Team Ramsay, like, it's important to change those gears to make sure that you have the points you need to win. Now we need to make sure that we defend them.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
If you're team makers, I think you're definitely throwing the freeze here. It's going to be wide open, but as we saw on that curly side, it's very difficult to manage for all 4 teams that have been on this ice so far.
Forcing the counterclockwise rotation, I think, is a really big asset to team makers if they can make this freeze.
Yeah.
Because although you're throwing that 9-second hog-to-hog hit on that counterclockwise rotation, it seems to still curl a lot.
Yeah, and if you're a men's team watching this draw right now and you're about to play this, you're definitely taking notes on how much both sides are curling and what's happening on both sides of the sheet, because we've seen consistencies for at least the 2 games that we've had so far of the one side curling quite a bit more than the other. But both sides are curling. Like, there's no fall side, or there's no... The ice is running really well. It's just adapting, and it looks like they might need to go for line here.
Maya seems to be all there for weight. I don't think they need it. What a great shot.
It is a great shot.
And I think one thing too, just seeing how that shot was released by Emma Akers, I think it's important that Keaton and Team Ramsay don't fall victim to a difference in release, because that was a very positive, very crisp release by Emma Akers, and I hope that Team Ramsay and Keaton were taking note of that when it happened, and then taking that into consideration for where they put the ice down for this hit. So it looks like they're throwing the counterclockwise rotation. That's the rotation that seems to be moving a lot more. We're gonna get a hog-to-hog split on this hit, because hits like this I find really interesting to see how certain teams manage them, and what weight they throw at it, how much engagement they want out of the sweepers, I think is really important, especially if you have a lead.
Absolutely agree. Just the way the rock is traveling, it looks like it's curling a little more than they want it to, but it looks close. It looks like a great shot.
That was a great shot there. 9.5 seconds hog to hog. That's that good control, solid weight that can. The heavier you throw it, the more you're taking the curl out of it, which is good when you have such a curly piece of ice.
Yeah, and if you're team makers, I love the same shot. Tap it 2 feet, create a pocket behind your stone, and make it a hard hit for Keith Johnson.
No, exactly. And I think if you do that and you tap it, although it's the same shot, it's different in the sense that there's more pressure, because you can miss your first shot and then have a chance to make a shot to save the end. Whereas right now it's do or die. If you make this freeze, make this tab, you're putting the pressure on Keith and saying, I'm here to steal and I'm not going away.
Yep, absolutely. And it kind of creates a wall behind your shot rock. So do the same thing you just did, put the pressure right back on the other team. Seems like a similar release to her first stone, so this should be close.
Yeah, Maya seems to be on it. Think maybe a little tighter for line?
No, it just looks lighter.
Looks lighter.
So big sweep by Maya here to get it there. And just quite can't make it there. And it'll be a draw for 3 for Keaton Johnson.
Keaton Johnson. See, we're getting the names right, folks, and it's taking a lot of effort. So we appreciate the patience.
Really hard for it.
Yes, but don't blame us. Your coaches submitted the wrong player form, so shame on them.
Shame on them.
But also shame on us for not saying it correctly after a while. But that's okay.
After the first,
like
5 ends.
Yeah, what feels like a lifetime. Yeah. So
I draw to, looks like,
for 3
paint. For 3.
And
Savannah's head down sweeping.
Yeah, I think these ladies have put on an excellent clinic of just sweeping. The technique is good. You see that her head is right over the rock, have that 1/3, 2/3 grip, and it's right in there for 3 points.
Great shot for 3.
It's a great team shot. And it looks like
and it's broom taps.
It's broom taps.
And for COVID rules, it's handshakes.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
They should be bringing the rocks down to the other end. And a good second live stream.
No, it was good, and I think it was
great game.
It was a great game, and it was really interesting to see how different strategies kind of combated each other, and how they were able to kind of execute different things to get a differing result. And I think both teams have a lot of positives to take out of this game. So I have nothing but good things to say. But that's it for us here from Dundas Valley Curling Center. We have more live streams coming up for you, and we look forward for you to listen to us again. Bye for now.